Yeah. And then I was there too, so I don't know how. It says live on Facebook on the corner. Okay, so yeah, but I just can't.
Okay, it's right now. It says that it's redirecting to Facebook Live.
Now, Evan, I don't see us anywhere. Let me. I'm gonna go back and relaunch this because I don't see it on mine either. Okay, give me a second.
Okay.
So
Yeah, it's
now I
just
can see you, Brooke, but it's a little delayed.
It's just delayed. Yep, but it's there.
So maybe we can start.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Even though it's kind of odd not seeing an image up here.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute my phone if I can. Turn the volume down. Yeah. Okay.
Well, welcome everyone to our fourth session of Coping in a COVID-19 World. I'm Chris Janson. I work at the University of North Florida in our Center for Urban Education and Policy as the director. And this project really grew from, I think just a way that we have, I guess as a center, we've always felt like one of our strengths is bringing people together in a way where conversations across generations, across different demographic divides can happen in a gracious way. So today, I'm thrilled to have an opportunity not only to talk with Brooke Cobbin, who I'll introduce in just a second, but also we're hoping to make this session more interactive. So we switched to a new platform, Zoom, and I'm hoping that it's something that we can, I guess, grow more skilled with in terms of technology, which is, I guess, well-timed, because in Duval County Public Schools, today is the first day that that their online, their teaching and instruction and schooling went online. So I'm happy to introduce Brooke Cobbin. Brooke is a resident clinical faculty for our College of Education and Human Services. She's our past director of our Educator Preparation Institute. Brooke is also a past school administrator, expert teacher, and amazing mother. So she had been sharing some different guidance and advice around what she calls home learning survival. And I thought that would be a great addition to this conversation today. So thank you, Brooke, for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Janson.
So I guess to start out with, and as we move through this today, I am really interested in what are some things that you've been experiencing really in your own life since things really kind of developed so rapidly around the safeguards and the distancing that we've had to engage in.
Well, just with the social distancing, I'll speak to that first. And with having little children, so 3 children under the age of 9, just teaching them about, keeping their distance, and the easiest thing for us to keep distance is to stay in the house, right? So not gathering with their friends outside in the neighborhood. And we were on spring break last week, and there was none of that really going on. And with the hand washing, with 3 small children, just keeping their hands out of their face, that's been difficult because that's just what kids do, I was telling you earlier, I have a thumb sucker. So, I mean, the angst with that alone, outside of this pandemic, just, keeping your hands out of your mouth and, don't pick up that, don't touch that. But it's like a thin line. It's like, where do you draw the line? Where do you go from just being, normal and a good parent to pushing that anxiety off on your children? So I've been trying to practice not doing that, not pushing the stress and the anxiety upon my children, as we stay home and, try to stay away from other people. Don't pick up that, don't touch that. But it's like a thin line. It's like, where do you draw the line? Where do you go from just being, normal and a good parent to pushing that anxiety off on your children? So I've been trying to practice not doing pushing the stress and the anxiety upon my children, as we stay home and, try to stay away from other people. I don't touch that. But it's also.
So I know there's a bit of an echo going on right now. Thank you for that, Brooke. I'm not currently able to see who else is.
Maybe turn your phone. I think the FB, the Facebook volume. Maybe turn the Facebook volume down. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I know that we also have on with us Aleta Turner. Aleta is the community coordinator for Leadership Jacksonville. Hi, Aleta.
Hello, hello.
I think the FB, the Facebook volume.
Could you hear me just now?
Maybe turn the Facebook volume down. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm not able to hear Aleta though. Aleta is the community coordinator.
Yes, I'm here, Chris.
Hi, Aleta.
Hello, hello.
Aleta, do you want to talk a little bit about what your role is like with Leadership Jacksonville and how it's been impacted recently?
Well, right now we're all working from home, and our office is located in the Jesse Ball DuPont Center. So with that, I have a picture in the house, so just balancing everything like the rest of all the parents in the county.
Great. Aleta, do you want to talk a little bit about what your role is like with Leadership Jacksonville and how it's been impacted recently?
Well, right now we're all working from home, and our office is located in the Jesse Ball DuPont Center. So with that, I have a picture in the house, so just balancing everything like the rest of all the parents in the county.
Great. Aleta, do you want to talk about what your role is like with Leadership? So I'm not quite sure where the echo is coming from. It's probably on my end in some way. But Brooke, in the meantime, as we kind of sort through the echo issue, could you talk a little bit about what are some recommendations that you have for parents who are really thrust in this new role of having to really monitor and support their kids' learning in real time while they're used to being at their own jobs or running about the errands of their day?
Yes, I posted on one of my first daily tips this morning was to try to maintain a normal schedule or like a regular schedule. It doesn't have to mirror their normal student schedule, but it should be pretty close, but not exact because you are in your home. Like you don't necessarily need to, I think, transform your entire home into a school. And I think that's what a lot of people are trying to do. I know I posted a few pictures earlier of some things that I did to set up the space. Those are just things that I had, and I did not go out and purchase or, because that's stressful, right? I didn't go out and try to recreate something I don't have. Like I already had this easel because my daughter does artwork. I already had, mats because I have a little 4-year-old. So kind of look around your house and see what do you have that you can use to make it comfortable learning for them, but don't stress yourself out about not having everything they would have in a normal schoolhouse because people are absolutely doing that. As we're out of toilet paper, we're going to be out of math manipulators too because people are going on Amazon and buying all this stuff. And so that's one thing. So schedule and then just being resourceful, looking at what you have, what you can do. And overall, I was thinking about this the other night. I'm an educator. I have a lot of friends and family who are educators. So this is like my job. This is my calling. This is what I do every day. So it may come a little more naturally to me, but no doubt parents, caregivers, you are educators too. You are teaching your children. You've taught them since day one. We may bring a different level or different kind of expertise, but you too can also, be successful in teaching your own children. At the same time, that different level of expertise I'm talking about is the district curriculum, right? And using, district products and things like that. Yeah, we know the products. We've looked at them more than you. We may be experts on that. So don't feel like you have to be that. A lot of the districts are pushing things out. Use it, tailor it to make you comfortable. but we're not asking, I don't think anyone's asking or expecting parents to like be a professional teacher. Does that make sense? And again, it's all about bringing that stress level down. Like, don't do things that will just, and at the end of the day, they're going to go back to the schoolhouse, the brick and mortar, and things are going to be different again. So just do what you can while you can. But schedule is important because a lot of us are working from home. I'm working from home. I'm a student. And in my work, I have students, college students. So, I mean, I'm, juggling my kids' schedules, my intern schedules who can't be in school. So imagine that. How do you teach interns about good teaching when they can't see it? And then I'm a student myself, as being a wife and mom. So it's a lot, but keep a schedule. You have to, I think part of me maintaining my sanity is keeping a schedule and making it kind of, the expectations are there. The kids know what to expect every day. We throw in a little, surprises here and there, surprise games or a little walk, around neighborhoods, little scavenger hunt, little things like that, keep them engaged, but don't stress yourself about being a teacher. Like, no one's expecting you to be, a professional educator with your own children. And just, value the time that you have.
So Aleta, I know you have a fifth grader, and I'm curious about what their experience was like today.
So thankfully at work, we use Microsoft Teams. So I already knew how to assist, and my husband and I was helping my son today. So we had because my pre-exposure, we had a pretty good experience, but we also had to sit there with him and monitor certain things. So it's not like you just put your child in front of a computer and say, click that button. You really have to still be there and monitor and provide guidance.
Yeah, I know that one of the concerns that I've heard expressed by a number of students actually is, they're I guess they're concerned about where those extra, kind of supports can be if it's asynchronous. So I guess when I say the term asynchronous, that means the learning that takes place not kind of all at one time in the moment. So synchronous learning would be if the teacher is maybe starting off the day in elementary school with kind of a live chat similar to this with all the students, whereas asynchronous would be a task is assigned, maybe participation in an online aspect is expected to take place at a student's, I guess, kind of convenience over maybe a number of days. So I know one thing that my oldest son, who's a senior, was concerned about was, would there be certain times that would be maybe in conflict with other things for other classes? And, I guess what I've tried to emphasize as a parent in our conversations is that there's going to be a great deal of uncertainty right now. And that uncertainty is something that we're just going to have to talk about openly. It's not going to go away, that there's uncertainty that the teachers are experiencing. And of course, uncertainty on a just mass scale across the country and the world right now. So those are some of the things that we've been trying to focus on here. I'm going to kick it back over to you, Brooke, but I do want to say for other people who are on the Zoom, I'm still kind of sorting through this platform. I'm unable to see who actually else is on. So I'm not currently able to I guess, address any kind of question or comment that you might have, unless you also message through Facebook. And then I will know, that somebody has something that they would like to add or contribute. So while we're sorting that out, Brooke, talk about as a teacher, how important it is to have, as you said, varied kind of instructional activities that hit different learning kind of modalities. Like the idea that maybe there should only be certain size increments of time focused on different subjects, or to make sure that there's an opportunity for even play, throughout the day. Yeah, I think one thing I've always learned a lot from you is that you plan out and schedule things so well, and you're so attentive to like whole people. What are some recommendations that you have in that way?
And so you're right. I don't believe a day should be full of academics only. To be honest with you, we may be engaged in either direct, I'm teaching them directly, or they're reading or writing or working with math or social studies or whatever for maybe 3 hours a day, and not consecutively. There's always breaks in between. So 3 hours a day, because you're thinking in a normal school day, there's transitions, you have to add up all that. So they're not just sitting there for 6 hours, engaged in a book or whatever. And then using the older siblings with the younger sibling, I mean, they can read to her. So I'm like, just you being very resourceful. But we do the core subjects, we do reading, we write, we have a break. And then there's some online components to that. And I'm in a district where I have not received online instructional material yet. The virtual learning material has not been pushed out to us yet. Our teachers are learning about it this week, and it'll be pushed out to us next week. So this week, parents and my account are really on their own. So I've started with, and a lot of folks ask me this morning, where did you start? Well, I started with, what did you do before spring break? So you should kind of know where your kids left off before spring break, so you're not just pulling random standards and things out of the air. So they know what they've been working on. School-age children as young as 4 or 5, they know exactly what they've been working on. So schedule it out, but they don't have to be in this school mode for 6-8 hours a day. I mean, you're going to have things that you need to do. So we may be in school until around 1 o'clock, and there's play in between, there's breaks in between. When they're playing, they're breaking, I may have to make a phone call or hop on a conference call or something like that. So it would be better if you broke the day up and you're not just doing all school and then let them play for 3 hours straight, but like just let them play like in between, and go outside, cook meals together. We cook lunch together, something simple, and it relieves the stress on you. Everything's not on me. So I'll share. I do have a schedule. We revised it today because they gave me their schedule, and today they didn't like it so much. So they wanted to make some changes, which is fine. So we're going to revise our schedule tonight and try something different tomorrow. But we can't just do packets all day, parents. We cannot just sit and have them writing in packets all day, or reading books all day, even online all day. My kids don't sit in front of the computer on the iPad all day. You have to facilitate the learning, give some instruction, and ask deep questions. So I've been able to question them a lot, which is my biggest thing. You give them a good, rigorous, higher order question around a topic that they're interested in. I mean, I think the first question, we have morning work, Ruth Knight. We have morning work, and my question of the day was, what are 3 things we can do to stay healthy during COVID-19? And I have different learners, right? Different children. So one gave one very thorough response, although I asked for 3 different ways. And then my son gave 5. So just getting to know your kids and knowing, what they can do and how they are. But I got great responses because it really, provoked thought. And so now I'll do that every day, a question of the day. And that question of the day gives me time to do other things with the 4-year-old while the older kids are doing something else. So just a few things that I've done today. And I just started today. We just returned from spring break. So we had a pretty good first day.
Good. So I'm unable to see who else is on the Zoom, but Easter Brown just sent me some names. So I know, for example, that Lindsay Allen, I think you're on, Lindsay. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yep, she's there.
Okay. So Lindsay, your role at the university is also, in the school district, is also working as a resident clinical faculty member. Mm-hmm. Could you share a little bit about maybe your observations or things that you've learned today, just from how this process has rolled out from the teachers maybe that you've talked to?
Well, I've actually been working closely with my interns. I do have some interns who had to return home. I have one who's in California, one who's in Orlando. And they have actually added me to like some of like a Tiger Academy. They're using Class Dojo to communicate with parents. They're posting lessons there. The interns have been creating schedules. Their mentor teachers have been very supportive with them. And then they're just keeping me in the loop and what's going on. I've had to engage in Zoom conversations with them just to, you know, reassure them that, hey, yes, I know you're seniors and we're going to get through this together. So there's been some, you know, anxiety connected to the work that still has to be done, but just being that encourager for them has allowed them to, you know, feel like they're being supported through this process and this transition, because, you know, I'm sure they're watching the news heavily, and you know, it's having some effect on them. But teachers, they're being very flexible, which that being an educator, you're required to be flexible, and they are just really trying to make it their own and really engage their students in what it is that the district is asking them to do, or, you know, what Tiger Academy is asking them to do, just to keep them so they don't have a they don't lose there's not a gap in instruction for them. So but then at the college level, I'm even using videos and things like that with my students just so they can see me, because words can get lost in translation with just writing. So I've posted some videos for my students in Canvas and things like that, just to reassure them that, you know, things are going to go well and we'll be, you know, in this process together. So I think it seems to be going well so far. I'm just having to keep in mind that it's important to be flexible. It's important to be understanding. I even did a survey for my field students just to kind of see, you know, how are your internet connections, and, you know, what is your mode of being able to communicate with me. And so just really trying to be that support for them, so that they can continue throughout their learning experiences.
Thank you. I know that we've also been joined by Ruth Knight. Ruth, would you mind introducing yourself and sharing some of your thoughts?
Good evening, everyone. Hi, this is Ruth Knight. I am a elementary science specialist with the district. So I work closely with most of our turnaround schools in the area of fifth grade science. Most of my support today was just a virtual meeting using Teams with my fifth grade teachers that I support currently, and just making sure that they had lessons assigned for the kids. Just basically if there was anything that they needed from me. Like Brooke, I don't have any small children, but I do have my nephew while his mom is at work. So today we pretty much had a structured schedule also, which started at around 10:30 because I had to hold some meetings with my teacher. So my day started at 7:30, and then his school day started at around 10:30. We had PE. We did have some recess, but we also did his reading and his math. And being the science auntie that I am, I did also include science. So, which isn't normal for most fourth grade teachers. They really focus on reading and math, but, you know, we did a little science also. So my role is just supporting other teachers and answering questions that they may have.
So Ruth, what would you, it feels like, I mean, I said this last week, this was just a Herculean task for the district to move this rapidly. And it seems like it's been pretty darn successful. What was your feeling amongst other educators in terms of, you know, I guess the transition to online learning?
If I had to use one word to describe it, anxious. A lot of people were really anxious about it. I think it was the number of people that were going to be online at the same time, which isn't normal for everyone. So just getting over that, and just knowing that there are going to be glitches. This is day one. We expect some hiccups in this, but just be patient. Be patient, and just know that everything's going to work out. And if it doesn't work out today, we always have tomorrow.
Great. Also, there is a Phyllis on with us. Phyllis, would you mind introducing yourself and sharing some of your thoughts? All right. Maybe Phyllis no longer
I
is
wasn't
with
sure
us.
how to work this.
Oh, I'm sorry. We can hear you, Phyllis.
Okay. I'm Phyllis Wiley. I'm actually an attorney, and my kids are not with me. This is an interesting conversation. My daughter already has online school, so she's been working with K-12 for quite a while. My son is graduated, is at Florida State College, but he also part of his school is already online, so he's kind of used to that sort of format. So they're kind of independent. They don't really need my help so much. But it is interesting to hear all that everyone else has to do.
Thank you, Phyllis. Thanks for joining us. Rashonda, are you still on?
Yes, sir. I'm still here.
Hi, Rashonda. Would you like to introduce yourself and share some of your thoughts?
Sure. I am a school counselor, elementary school counselor down in Flagler County, but I've also worked in the middle school as well. I have two young kids, a 2-year-old who is very noisy. Please stop. Please stop. And I also have a 6-year-old. We have not begun our virtual instruction yet officially. So our district has just been in the planning phases starting today. As a school counselor, my counterpart and I, we're coming up with ways to support the students without overloading them, because Brooke did make a great point about not stressing them out. So we have a few fun things that we plan, including some virtual college tours and like a kindness challenge. We're working on getting all that finalized and ready to push out for our students starting on Monday.
Wow. So Rashonda, I'm a former high school counselor. Welcome to the conversation. And I know we're going to have at least one upcoming session that I hope you can join us for, specifically around how we can continue to support our young people from the school counseling aspect. I mean, this is, as somebody said, this is a collective trauma that we're all experiencing together. And I know that it's important that we resume and create continuity in the learning needs of all the young people in our schools, K-12 and in fact in universities. But I know that, and it's really heartwarming to know that there's professionals like you, Rashonda, who are addressing the affective needs, the emotional needs of our students as well. So thank you for joining us. Easter Brown, I know you're on as well.
I am here.
Okay, and Easter had a good reminder. From my end of this, from a technical standpoint, I just see a modified kind of Facebook screen. So I'm unsure. I hope that I've been able to mute my computer sufficiently when I'm not talking to limit the echo that we hear. But I would recommend that too, so there's not as much feedback. Anyway, Easter.
Yes.
How are things going?
Oh, it's going well.
So you are also in the stages where y'all are preparing for the movement to online, correct? I think I lost Easter. So Brooke, I'm gonna circle back to you. What would you recommend, Brooke, in terms of, I think, the emotional demands that this is gonna place on families? So all of a sudden we're assuming different roles in our home. I think it'll change our relationships with our partners, with elders in our family. What are some of your thoughts on that, navigating relationships within your home?
I think we're all just trying to survive, Chris. We have, parents or, perhaps grandparents, just, elderly folks that we may be taking care of. So just convincing them to stay in, and just deciding who's going to do what. So who's going to go get the groceries, who's, going to, take the kids for a walk, making decisions about, are we going to order takeout? Is it safe? So And if you're not, then you're cooking more. Who's going to cook? And so and then you're buying more groceries because you're cooking more. So really just changing how you do things, changing how, I manage the house. The kids we're washing our hands more frequently, and things like that. They're used to seeing me, wiping things down and disinfecting and all that kind of stuff. But it's a new way of managing your house while making sure everyone is still feeling loved and cared for and giving time and attention and not letting this just consume everything, right? So still being mom, still being dad, still being, brother, and doing all the fun things and the social things, that you can do, in the house. I think it's important also, a lot of us have kids and such who are in sports or some extracurricular activities. And I think it's important for their well-being to stay connected to those kids and those teachers and those coaches. My kids play a sport, and their team, they're pushing out some things in Google Classroom, but I wrote my coach and offered a suggestion of having a Zoom meeting once a week. So the normal time of practice, having a Zoom meeting, because those social interactions are important. So keeping that, aspect of their lives intact, especially teenagers. We talked about that earlier. So, but yeah, I think, like I said, the school part, the scheduling is important, but outside of that, when school hour is over, you do have to manage your household differently, but check on, the well-being of everyone in the house. If they need anything, how are they feeling? Because everyone, I think, is experiencing this in a different way.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think the conversation that I've been having with a lot of people is really trying to notice and be aware, to be mindful about the things that we're doing respectively, that I'm doing, sometimes to manage anxiety that I'm not exactly talking about or isn't really even in the front of my mind. So, I know that, every day, life tasks now are, for me, fraught with a good deal of anxiety. As you said, Brooke, we were chatting briefly before about comfort level with picking up food. Just going to the grocery store is kind of a scary event for me right now. I'm pretty cautious, but there's a lot of elders in my life that, like many of you, I'm trying to think about how I protect them. So it becomes more and more clear, though, that that I need a core group of kind of people in my life, in addition to those in my home, my wife specifically, that could have some of those kind of conversations about deeper kind of concerns, anxieties around the uncertainty that we're facing. So I'm curious about, for each one of you, how are you managing this uncertainty? And feel free to just jump in, I guess. How are you managing the uncertainty while also, maintaining your role as an educator, if that's the case, or an attorney, or maintaining your family roles? Like, I try to shield my sons, even though they're young adults. I'm trying to shield them from some of the anxiety that I experience. So what are some things that you're experiencing?
So this is Easter. I don't know, can you guys hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay, great. So I would say, I have grandkids here at home. And so, they know that they're out of school. They know that, they've saw the news and they've heard about, coronavirus. And I think just having a conversation with them, like, what do you think it is? And, how do you feel about it? Those are conversations that we have, and I try to break it down on a kid's level, but at the same time, I think that I'm being educated, each day about it too. So it is kind of difficult to find that balance. But I do like what Brooke said, is trying to keep your day-to-day activities as normal as possible through all of it. So no, yes, we're in the house, but that doesn't mean that we can't be creative and have fun.
I don't think you
You
lost.
know, the kids, but for adults too, to keep us all engaged.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And
Sir.
I know for me, I had to create myself a schedule.
Is this Lindsay?
Yes, this is Lindsay. I had to create myself a schedule because like last week I was like, oh my gosh, like what did you do today? Like it's almost like I felt like I wasn't productive. So I, you know, from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, to showering, to going work out, to, you know, cleaning up the house, like I had to keep myself on a system. Today was my first day of working that schedule. It worked a little bit, not so much, but I had to do that to just to ensure that I just wasn't in here becoming a bum. And also trying not to watch so much news, you know, just trying to turn that outlet, maybe give myself 30 minutes of it because it's really just constantly some of the same things being said over and over again. And just making sure that my mom and my mother-in-law, they're older, they're in their 70s, so it's like, you know, hey, stay in the house, like you shouldn't be in Sam's going to pick anything up, like if you need something, call us. But just, you know, constantly checking on them. But I definitely had to reel myself back in from being so like connected, and just because I started like getting anxious about a lot of stuff. There's some big things happening in my life, and it's like, oh gosh, where is this going to lead? So I got to kind of, you know, backtrack that piece too, to not, you know, overthink the situation and just, you know, wait it out. But I think like my schedule that I've created, I think that's going to kind of help me. I went on a walk today, like just to get out of the house and stretch, get some fresh air, social distancing myself, obviously, because nobody's really outside, but just doing that to not be sitting in the house and, you know, dwelling on the situation.
This is Ruth again. If I could add on to what Lindsay said about the parents, my mom called this morning and told me that she's going to Walmart. No, ma'am, you're not. You know, if there's anything you need, like Lindsay said, just let us know. But she said she wanted to get out of the house. She lives in an assisted living facility. She's 73, and she's, you know, she drives, she does her own thing, but no, ma'am, we're not leaving the house. Is there anything that you need? Let me know and I can get it for you. As I stated earlier, my twins are adults, but they both work for UPS. They're considered essential employees. And I'm like, I want people to just stop ordering stuff, because Lindsay and Brooke know me well. They know how I feel about my children. I don't care how old they are. They're my kids. I don't want them out there. But unfortunately, they have to go because people are still ordering things. So UPS calls, so they're out and about, but you know, they're tired of me saying, wash your hands. You know, they're 22, but I'm telling 22-year-olds to wash their hands, but they do. They know that their mom is probably one of the biggest germaphobes there is in the world. So all of this isn't new for me. This is some stuff that I've been doing most of my adult life because I'm that crazy person. But it's just, it is a bit anxious. And, you know, again, they both know me well. They know I'm a scheduler. I am a by the book person. So all of this it kind of works for me. It's like, this is kind of my life. I'm that crazy. Call me monk if you have, you know, I'm that crazy person, but it is necessary. And I just want, if you have older people in your life, just make sure that they're taken care of. And, you know, I told my mom, if there's anything out there, I'll go ahead and get that for you. But she's insisting on going to Walmart. So I can't go see her because they won't allow us to go into the facility. So it's just like, hey, I'll call you. Do you need anything? No, but then you tell me the day you're going to Walmart. So, you know, that's my life right now, is just making sure that my mom and my children are okay. And just having those conversations with my nephew, because he's here, but starting tomorrow, I'll be distributing laptops. Yay, me. So it's just, my day starts with meetings with my teachers from 8 until 10. Then I'm with my nephew from 10 until 1. And then I'm at Kearney Middle distributing laptops from 1 until 7 p.m. So if you want to look for Ruth Knight, that's where you can find me. But that's how it's working out for me right now.
Thanks, Ruth. I know that's been that idea of those of us, and it looks like it's a lot of us in this conversation, we're squeezed between kind of being the people monitoring the elders in our lives, and then younger people. And I don't know why we're burdened right now with all of this, kind of vigilance. But I also think about I worked for a while with a group of Native Hawaiians, and they have this term called kuleana, which roughly translates to the idea that service to others is both it's both a joy and an honor, but also a burden. And boy, I'm feeling the burden part a little bit more these days. Would others want to jump in right now about the way you're experiencing and really kind of dealing with anxiety?
Yeah, this is Phyllis.
Hi, Phyllis.
It's been kind of crazy for our family because we're all spread out. My daughter, who's 15, is with my parents who are in their 80s, and my dad has dementia. So my mom is a hypochondriac. So every other day she has the coronavirus. So I'm constantly trying to calm her down. And then, as I said, my daughter already was doing sort of a dual K-12. She's in a dance program. So she's very active. And at this point, of course, there are no dance classes, no dance portion. And that's the whole reason she was up there with my parents. She's been very anxious. So my husband actually now is going to drive up there and get her because she's afraid to get on the plane, understandably, assuming there would be a plane flight anyway. But so he's got to go up there and get her. But I've advised her that even when she comes back to Jacksonville, it's not going to be any more exciting. I know her teacher had started some dance classes online, but that just doesn't seem to be enough. She's the only one, I think, who's probably feels like, I think the last thing she said to me was, the coronavirus is ruining my life, so she's really feeling quite overwhelmed. I'm getting slightly overwhelmed myself because I'm a defense attorney, and it's hard to defend when you don't have court. So I've got all my clients who are inmates, and I can't get them out. And, I'm trying to do things by email, and they're saying, I can't even go and talk to my clients. And it's very overwhelming. And I feel like I'm doing nothing, even though constantly throughout the day, I'm trying to contact this person and that person to try to keep things moving. But I just don't see, if this keeps going on, I'm trying to figure out how in the world this is going to keep going, and we're infringing on people's rights. So that's all in my head. But my husband and my son are fine. I don't know if they're taking this, as relaxed period. They're obviously totally opposite me and my daughter. And they seem to be taking it in stride. I do have to remind, it's funny how Ruth was saying she has to keep reminding her 22-year-olds wash the hands and whatever. But I do have to constantly say to my son, who's 19, hey, look, you just went this place, you need to come in and wash up. And my brother, who's a physician up in Boston, was even going as far to say that he's actually coming in. He has a set of clothes that he wears out, and then he comes in and then takes off the stuff right there and then puts on his indoor clothes. So it's just like, oh my gosh, are we really here at this point where we have to keep doing that? It's just scary. The whole thing is very overwhelming.
It is scary. And you highlighted really through your the anecdotes that you shared concerning your family and I would imagine a lot of us, I know I've also experienced this feeling of inefficiency, that I will admit I'm incredibly distracted, right now. It's hard for me to compartmentalize my news watching like Lindsay has been able to. I need to do a better job of that. The other thing I heard, Phyllis, and what you just shared is your daughter experiencing what my senior in high school, I think, is also experiencing, and that's a sense of loss, that they've in different ways lost a lot. You know, my younger son is a singer. He's in a vocal performance program, and you know, I'm not sure how that translates online. The senior, of course, will miss out on all of those events that probably a lot of people really keep as dear memories. Those things aren't happening. There's not going to be a prom. There's not going to be a commencement. He's now concerned about whether he'll be able to start in the fall at a university, as he's still making a decision about where to go. So with loss, I mean, there's a sense of grief that accompanies that. And, you know, how do we in these anxious moments, how do we quiet ourselves enough to be able to listen to the loss that other people are expressing is probably an important thing. It strikes me listening to you. So thank you for sharing that, Phyllis. How about others?
Hey, Chris, it's Aleta.
Hi, Aleta.
I wanted to just share that we have the 10-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a newborn. So today I had to cancel the newborn's immunization shots. So she would have had to go to NES Jacksonville. And if you all know and have been watching the news, although we're also detoxing from the news, that you don't want to take your infant to NES Jacksonville right now because they have cases there. So I canceled that appointment. And essentially, you know, I would like to talk to a doctor. So I asked them to send a message to the doctor just to find out how long can a newborn go without getting those 2-month immunization shots. So I know, you know, everyone's thinking about, you know, students in school, but there are some parents who have infants. And of course, you have older people in your family. So you're looking out for them, but you're also looking out for other, such as newborns who was just born and, you know, within the last 3 months that they need to get shots. And these are wellness appointments that literally the woman said, well, you know, they wouldn't have been able to see your baby because they're only taking people who have immediate, you know, life-threatening illnesses and things because of COVID. And so I understand that myself because I don't want her going into any doctor's office where people might have come in and left germs. So I'm just learning to breathe, deep breaths, right?
Yeah.
Deep breaths and stay away from the TV. So, and thank you all for creating this space for all of us to share.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for joining us and contributing. Who else would like to share around some of the things that you're experiencing or thinking?
I think LaToya is trying to share. LaToya, are you there? Okay, I can't hear her for some reason. Okay. Okay, we can go on. I can't get her audio.
Okay. Yeah, I think the other point of conversation that I'm trying to focus on myself right now is how to, you know, so I think it was it Ruth talking about you know, the fact that you've always been real vigilant about hygiene and safety. And I would say my oldest son is like that. He's always been somebody who's very fastidious about you know, careful about germs. And you know, I always think about the counseling theorist Aaron Beck, who never wanted to talk about you know, thought the better term rather than dysfunctional behavior is maladaptive behavior. That maladaptive behavior is, you know, a behavior that served a purpose at one point, and then the conditions changed, and so it just wasn't as adaptive. It was maladaptive to the current circumstances. And it strikes me that different kinds of skill sets or character traits are now going to be either more useful or less useful. So for those of us who have been kind of germaphobes to begin with, that's now a very useful kind of disposition, you know, and I guess approach to our world. Likewise, I think about how I think Thoreau once said that the the solutions to our enduring and most challenging human social problems are not going to come from politicians. They're not going to come from academics, or other so-called experts, but what they're really going to do is come from artists and those who engage in aesthetic forms. And so creativity and innovation, I think, are never more valuable, have never been more valuable than perhaps they are now, because our old playbooks, our old policies, our old approaches to leadership just aren't going to be, I'm not sure they're proving to be as helpful and effective right now.
Hi,
So-
can you all hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, great. Okay. This is LaToya. I'm sorry to interrupt you,
That's
Chris.
okay. No,
I
no.
finally got in.
Good.
So just a few things. One, I'll piggyback off of what Lindsay said earlier, is to kind of distance yourself from like social media and the news. I would just set like a time a day to kind of just catch yourself up. And I kind of do it at nighttime, because that way everything throughout the day has already occurred and I can just get the summary instead of following it hour by hour. It gets very overwhelming and you kind of go back into shock, if you will, you know? So I try to like limit myself to the news and just catch up at night. And then I have a little one, he's 6 months. And so for me, fear kind of comes at a different angle. It's kind of like the unknown. So I'm constantly watching him because he can't communicate, right? Well, he can, but not how I want him to. I want him to just tell me I'm sick and I'm not feeling well. And also, you know, keeping him at a distance with others. I just recently started working from home. So I was still going into the office, you know, practicing the social distancing and things like that, but you just never know, right? So for me, it is definitely kind of scary just having a little one at home and how aggressive they're saying that the coronavirus is. You know, people aren't dying day 14, you know, they're dying day 4 and 5. It's very aggressive. So by the time they say, do you have a fever? You're already very sick. Because having a temperature is a natural way for your body to reject whatever it is that's going on with you. So it's already attacking you. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. And then, so in regards to like normalcy, for me, I kind of took a different approach. And outside of, you know, me having to work, I'm actually kind of doing the opposite. I'm practicing a new routine because after we, you know, get out of the quarantine and go back to our daily lives, it is not going to be the same. Just think how much has changed in the matter of like 3.5 weeks. We've shown ourselves in the country on so many levels how advanced and how adaptable and agile we are. And so things are not going to be the same. Look at all the people that went home and work from home now. Look at all the parents that thought they couldn't educate their kids. You know what I'm saying? All the things that we thought we wouldn't be successful at, we're now doing. And some will put their children back in school and some will be empowered to keep them homeschooled, or some will be empowered to say, hey, no, I can do my job at home. I don't need to report to the office 5 days a week for 8 hours. You know, and I struggle with that as a new mom. You know, after, you know, you're supposed to be at home with your child for 12 weeks so you can, you know, learn them and bond. And then I have to like relinquish him over to a nanny for 9 hours. And I wanted to raise him. I wanted him to be influenced by, you know, my traits and my morals and values. I wanted him to spend most of his time with me and, you know, have a personality like me. So that was very hard for me. And now I get to get that back. So in the meantime, I'm using this time wisely to try to transition into something else where I can get that control back. So I think amongst other things, you know, we do want routine, but now is your opportunity to kind of take control back over your lives. And what routine do you want your children to have? What are your values, you know?
So you're seeing and making sure that there's some opportunities that really you can capitalize on in this time of change, and that's next level. That's next level, LaToya. I need to start thinking and looking for those kind of opportunities as well.
You really should. If you think about it, you know, all the other natural disasters and plagues and things like that, at the end there was a silver lining, and we learned enough about that, and time has passed, and we've become so technologically advanced. Like, we have the upper hand. Although lives are being lost, it seems very, very tragic because we haven't quarantined until now. But if we would have done that in the beginning, it wouldn't be so bad. It's just that it's growing like exponentially. But realistically, people are still dying, of other illnesses in greater numbers, if you will. Not to downplay this, but it's just obviously what's hot right now. So we still have to kind of separate ourselves from, this is still media. This isn't the first time we've been misled on different things, or not fed all of the information, or want you to think it's one way and not another. I'm just playing devil's advocate for a minute.
Sure.
But that's why I kind of want to take the high road and say, well, I'm gonna take advantage of it. I'm going to distance myself, but at the same time, when it's all over, I want to be on top.
I'm going to be thinking and reflecting on that. I guess there is opportunity in crisis, and I think if we're not looking for those opportunities like you are, then we're going to miss them, and this world will go on in one shape or form following this event, as different as it'll be. And if we're so focused, this is what I hear you saying, on just kind of treading water with the day-to-day flood of news, which just is changing so rapidly, that we don't get a chance to look further out on the horizon so we can better position ourselves down the road.
You got it, Chris.
So there was a comment on the Facebook page, or a point that I think is a great one. And Miranda, if you're on, feel free to express this point yourself. But her comment was that another thing to navigate during this time, this turmoil, I think, is how much work teachers are sending home for students to complete. This can be quite overwhelming to many, especially with various grade levels. It can be a lot, especially when parents are also working from home. I think that is going to be a challenge. I know I was talking to a young man over the weekend who I mentor, and he senior in one of our high schools, a neighborhood school in Duval, and this was Sunday, and he had learned from me that school was starting up on Monday. He has 5 siblings, and so I think we got them on the path to equip themselves with the technology that Duval has, I think, just in superb, quick fashion, is distributing to people who need it. Again, that's why that technology survey was so important. But once they're all equipped, the reality is that's going to be a household with six school-age kids. In an apartment where that's going to be a lot for their mother to take on. I do know that those conversations and those considerations are pretty front and center among the Duval educators that I've spoken with, but I'm wondering if some educators on this conversation can comment and contribute your thoughts to that.
Yeah, Chris, I would like to comment on the amount of work that is or will be sent home. And I'm speaking just globally, just, nationwide, worldwide, or whatever. I feel that the work that is being sent home should be all review. Like, you should not be expecting, or parents should not be expected to introduce or teach new material. That's just flat out. And that's where the professional expertise, educator expertise comes in, and let the teachers do that. You may have a teacher friend, a teacher in your family that can help introduce new things, but just the work being sent home, it should be review. It should be things that students can more than less work on independently. Parents should not feel the pressure of having, to teach to, mastery and things like that. It's just not fair. And I think they should have time to do other things that are a little bit, more important. We have a lot of competing priorities right now, and having to educate your own child should not be one that you shouldn't be that stressed about, because again, it's your child and you are their teacher first. You can do so many things with your child. that does not come out of a book or a packet or online. So keep that in mind. On the weekends when they're not in school, what do you do with them? They're still learning. What do you do with them? There is some structure. Think about it. So just getting parents to think more deeply. And I think, and other educators can chime in, you know how we get, it's the demand, parents. So, district, they need to do something. They need to do something. They need to send something. So they do it. They send it. It's bare. It's minimum. That's what it is. It's standard. It's average. It's what you do with it. So, it's what you do with it. But expecting parents to teach, to master, and introduce new things, give them something to review, something they can feel proud about, that they know how to do independently. They can work on their own. You can sit them down for 30 minutes, redirection. Okay, do this and be done with it. Like, again, we're gonna go back to life. And like my sister was saying, some kids will go back to brick and mortar and some are gonna stay home. So those are my thoughts.
Thanks, Brooke. Others?
I was going to say, this makes me think, of course, yes, the districts, they send things out, want parents to do it. And then ultimately, granted, the state has said, oh, okay, no state testing or anything like that. And, things like promotion and stuff are impacted. So it's just interesting. It's going to be interesting to see where that grading is going to, grading is going to go, and how, if it will be lenient from those districts as far as, some parents may not be able to upload things to the, website. Like if they're turning in packets, who's grading them? So I think that's still a gray area right now as far as like how grades are going to come, but you also want to be able to not lose the students, like you don't want them to have that gap. But like Brooke said, give them things that they've learned, probably extend them. I mean, heck, take it back in the day, home ec, teach them how to cut the grass. Like there's still a way to learn. Teach them how to type on the keyboard. They may not need much help with that nowadays like we did, because they have these iPads and things like that, but just take it back to the basics, and they'll still learn and grow and be able to apply those things.
You know what else, Lindsay? I was thinking of how, back when we were in the classroom, we would bring in bags and just buckets and bags of manipulatives and real world items, right? To bring learning to life. I remember math, bringing in, boxes, empty boxes of cereal and containers and things like that to show, volume and measurement, things like that. Like now's the time to do stuff like that. Just reinforcing, like you said.
And even with fractions, like baking, like whip out the measuring cups and, bake some cookies and things like that. Like
I went through,
you can talk about the math.
Right. I went through my recycling bin last night and was like, nope, let's just keep these in the house. And because the twins are working on measurement after they do, I think, geometry. Even my 4-year-old's little shapes. You think, oh, this little 4-year-old, no, that's a manipulative for my 3rd grader to learn 2D and 3D shapes. So again, you have a lot of things in your home. When you buy toys, you have things that can just connect to what they already know. So when that teacher didn't have that loaf of bread to show this is the benchmark for a pound, you have that loaf of bread. Go in the pantry and show them this is what a pound feels like, and do things like that so you can really connect. Because teachers, believe it or not, when we talk about differentiation and learning on different levels and product, process, and environment, you have the opportunity now to make that connection for that child where they didn't know what gravity was, couldn't figure out gravity by reading it in a book. You have the opportunity to watch a video because perhaps the teacher was banned from watching a video, so think just a little more creative about what you can do and let students guide you. Like my kids, I told you they came up with their own schedule. Okay. Like, Mom, we're doing morning meeting, right? Yeah, we are. We're doing morning meeting. Yep. And they told me what morning meeting was. And so let them tell you, take the stress off of you, and it will be just fine. And I think teachers and parents, be advocates. So Miranda, you're saying, how that's what's happening in Texas. Be advocates. You are the parent. You are the parent. You are the tax-paying citizen. Speak up and speak out. You get some crap sent to you, speak about it, and it's not about the things that's being sent, it's what you're expected to do with it. So hey, we can't do this. This is not going to work. And offer suggestions. One thing I'm doing with my interns, because we're struggling to figure out how do you teach interns when they don't have a setting. I'm going to just write down the things I am doing, and then we'll just go back at the end of the semester and say, out of these 100 tasks and activities and things that I've done, where does it fit into the requirements that they need for graduation? Like, I'm not going to waste time trying to put together this whole new curriculum just for 4 weeks. No, just write down day to day, keep a journal, parents, of what you're doing every day. And I guarantee you're hitting marks. You're hitting several marks for your kids.
Yeah, Brooke, the thing that I keep on coming back to, and maybe this is some of the finding opportunity in this crisis. I always am fond of talking about the fact that John Dewey, one of my education heroes, was once invited to reflect on and design or offer his suggestions for what an ideal school would look like physically. And he ultimately described a home. That there's a kitchen where young people can learn how to develop skills around food preparation. There's a living room where stories can be shared. So I think the idea that's also always paired with the idea that I'm passionate around, which is schools do amazing things. I come from 2 lifelong public educators. My parents, my wife was a public school teacher. I was. My in-laws both were, and so amazing, phenomenal things happen in schools. However, the most powerful learning that most of us experience about life, those lessons don't take place in schools. They take place in our homes. They take place with family and community and friends. And so this isn't, I don't make that comment generally to humble educators like myself, but to put it in perspective that that we're not the only people, and we're not educating youth, and we're certainly not young people's first teachers and primary teachers. So I think integrating more of life with education can be a great thing.
Chris, now you're talking. Yeah, because I think that as we become more modernized, if you will, and more advanced, it kind of takes away from, and it goes back to what I said before, that struggle in that balance of, giving your child away for 9 hours and hoping that everything that you want instilled in them occurs during that time, because when you get back home at 5 o'clock, either they're in sports or, they're winding down, you have to cook dinner, you're still kind of in this program mode and just structured. And so oftentimes to insert, your values in your children during the weekday is just unheard of, right? And so I think education does start at home. When we think about how school even evolved, it was just for specialty and for things like that. And it wasn't to raise your child. It wasn't to try to teach them the morals and values. So I think now we put too much onus on education or educators, if you will, to do all of that for us. But we're the parents, because I could have a child and they could end up being an entrepreneur, and they took over my family business. So there was nothing that teacher actually showed my child other than them walking side by side with me to learn the family business. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And it even goes to show now more so than ever, since we do have the technology that we do have, and you can YouTube anything and become it tomorrow. So if anything, this would be a wake-up call to say, hey, I kind of sense that the way the school was structured was outdated, because it's like fast fashion, it's like fast education. I can YouTube anything and practice my skill and then, become that. So it's kind of maybe this may redirect the way we view education. Maybe we need to go back to the drawing board and say, what do we really want to instill in the kids when they are gathered in this environment. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't have, like, children should learn social skills, not just by not just by being around others socially, but actually like engaging and telling them this is why, this and that. They just think that just because you're in a group, you're going to be social and you're going to be good at it, you know. And that's what having your kids together with like peers is about, you know. But to instill all the things that you want your child to be and showing them the world, that is the parents' responsibility at the end of the day. And that's what I want to take home. And I know you made a comment earlier, you know, it is unfortunate, you know, that some heard about, you know, school being closed on a Sunday and tomorrow is Monday, and, you know, how to get these 5 kids up to status and get their books that they need or material that they need for then the mom who has never taught them in a quote unquote, you know, organized manner, if you will, to do that now. I think we just need to take a step back, because why are you rushing us to do it? It's only Monday. Give me a week, give me 2 weeks to chill and just grasp it all in. Like, what is the rush? And that's the thing. The USA is just always want to rush and fast pace things. We don't take time to take a breath and just to soak it all in, you know, things like that. So I think that, like, just, we really just need to chill. Like, God has put this here. He's trying to say, y'all, chill out, chill. It is not that serious, you know. And so, and I know I'm kind of getting a little emotional, but I just think that we as a people, we really do have the power, you know. And, you know, from you all on here, a lot of you are educators, you know, this is like your opportunity to have that voice. And, you know, you wear 2 hats. You're an educator professionally, but then you still have kids too that you know, educate from the perspective that I have. So, you know, this is your opportunity really to have that voice and speak out, and of the different changes that should occur, and, you know, how to be more innovative and how to make it all work. Because at the end of the day, look how united we've come, even, you know, just this far in, you know, trying to make sure that everyone has the material that they have, and, you know, have lunches, and, you know, can still go up to the schools. I'm in Ohio, so they can still go up to the schools for breakfast and lunch, you know, and things like that. So, you know, I think we should really document, you know, these changes and how innovative we've become, and it'll really evolve into something I think really, really great.
Yeah, LaToya, you know, I think that idea that, you know, we have pause now, your idea to like radical chilling, you know, I love, because I think educational reform, one of the pitfalls over the past, probably, well, in my entire lifetime, is that we want to jump in and come in with solutions. And in that fury, in that, you know, kind of rapid response, we need to jump in. And I have this colleague who explores the metaphor of like chemical solutions are things that, you know, you don't hold together for the long haul. So like Kool-Aid is the example of a solution, you know, and if a pitcher of Kool-Aid is in the fridge long enough, it's going to settle, and it's going to go back to its composite parts. The eventually the sugar would settle on the bottom, you know, whereas there's a different cooking term. I'm a bit of a foodie, called an emulsion, and like mayonnaise is an example of that. Emulsions take a little bit more care. They're a little bit more fragile on the get-go. You have to be more precise. You need to take things slow to move fast, is what I also hear you saying. And the danger is if you jump in to some of those recipes, a béarnaise sauce or something like that, it'll break apart and you can never put it back together again. And so we've often out of the center talked about that metaphor for community work, that if you dive in, especially from a university that hasn't always listened so graciously to community, you know, we often enter with answers that the community, to questions that the community doesn't even have, or solutions to challenges that they don't even recognize because they don't really exist. You can do great damage. And so we've really tried to be, to lead with relationships and understand that for most of us, relationships take a little time. And they should. And I hear you saying that very clearly, that at this point, moving slow to move fast is really prudent. You know, I look at other organizations. So my oldest son is in an IB program. So IB is not going to do any testing this year. That was such a relief to him. That was, you know, I could see this huge weight lifted. Of course, state standardized end of course, you know, tests have been waived for this year. AP exams have at least been knocked down to a more reasonable size under the circumstances. But yeah, I think that there's some you know, deep wisdom in your observations that this may be a way that the universe is telling everybody to slow our rolls quite a bit. So I wasn't sure how long we were planning this for. I was kind of thinking it would be an hour. I'm very glad that it's gone on a little bit longer, but I think for the sake of everybody's lives, why don't we maybe wrap things up in the next 10 minutes. The way that we often do close out sessions when we're meeting face to face through our center is having each person kind of respond to a prompt. And so some of you have already, you know, kind of addressed this in different ways. But one of the things that we've been trying to do, since this is you know, this is just so trying, I think, for all of us, is to leave with a bit of hope. So if each person who's on right now could take turns briefly, because we have 10 minutes, so you've got each about a minute. I think there's about 10 of us on, sharing a little bit about something right now that's bringing you or giving you hope. Maybe if we could start with Ruth, if you're still on.
Great. Yes, I'm still here. I won't be a minute. I'll be really, really brief. I would just like everyone just to be encouraged, really just stay encouraged and know that we will all get through this. This is new for everyone, speaking on the virtual learning, but as far as the COVID-19, just stay home, you know, hopefully that soon it will pass. So just continue to be encouraged, be safe, and just know that it's coming and that we're going to be okay.
Thank you. Rashonda, are you still on with us?
Yes, sir, I am. I have to agree with Ruth, but I would like to add, as a counselor, I do have quite a few kids that I worry about because school is their safe place. So thank God for technology, and I was able to set up a Google Voice phone number. So I've been checking in with some students today, and I'll continue to do that so that they don't have to have my phone number, but they have a way to contact me.
That's pretty powerful, Rashonda. Thank you. And that gives me hope, actually, that you're innovating in a way that's going to support students who we know, unfortunately, there are some where the safest, most supportive place is not always their homes, unfortunately. Phyllis, what's bringing you hope now?
Yeah, I would have to say the fact that I'm able to spend more time with the family. You know, it brings you back to the times before you had a whole bunch of things going on. You know, it brings you back to just the simple life, reading a book, watching movies, like I said, together with your family, eating dinner together at the table, you know, that type of thing. Like I said, we don't have my daughter with us yet, but me and my husband and my son, we actually, you know, sat down together and ate. You know, and we've taken walks together, you know, just doing things together as a family. It, you know, it's a crisis, yes, but it does have some things that are bringing, like you said, some hope. It's bringing our family, you know, closer together, I would have to say.
Thanks, Phyllis. And I'm sure, I know I'll be praying for the safe return of your daughter. Miranda, it looks like you're on.
Hi, thanks, Brooke,
Hi.
for inviting me to this call. This has been very informative, and also just, you know, we're all going through the same things together. I'm in Texas, and so, you know, I think just like everyone has mentioned, I think this has forced us to pause. pause with our families and think about, things that, we get so busy with our work schedules and life and children's schedules and sports. And, we really don't take that time. We're always on the go. So I think one thing that, I've kind of taken from this ordeal is it has forced us all to pause and, put the family back at the center, and, and really God as well. And, just talking about, he has a plan. He knows why all this is taking place. And we just have to trust his will and enjoy that we actually have time to pause and be as a family and do things, cooking, chores, that normally, we don't normally get to do that. Mom usually does those. So this has been very helpful. Thank you all.
Thank you for joining us today, Miranda. Lindsay?
So things that I'm taking away from this is doing a little bit of self-care, making time for yourself, making time for, family. I missed the name of the lady who just spoke, but like even cooking more, and, paying attention a little more to what you're putting in your body, and just being able to, take care of self. So that's what I'm thinking about as far as hope.
Thank you. LaToya?
Hi. Yeah, so I would just say to embrace the simple things. Brooke can attest, we grew up in the country, and, we lived a simple life. We had everything we needed, and we didn't go somewhere every day, and we didn't see our friends every day, but we just kind of worked with what we had. And I think as we became adults, we appreciated that. We couldn't stand it at first, but in the end, we really appreciated that. And we appreciate, all the things that we have today. So we know both ways, we know how to live with and without. So I just say, really be grateful and just, learn simplicity.
Thank you, LaToya. Now, I'm not sure if Easter is still able to speak on this call, but if so, Easter?
Okay, I'll try again. This is one of the things that I guess with everybody being on, mine is not so great. But I would say cherish the moments that you have with your loved ones and friends, everybody. Just cherish the moments, whether it be your Facebook, interactions, whether it be your FaceTime or Zoom meetings, whether it be the face-to-face with your intimate family that lives in your house. Cherish all your moments.
Thank you, Easter. I'll save Brooke for last. One thing that makes me hopeful is that this crisis has caused me to reconnect with a few people who are really important to my life, but in the busyness of life, we've maybe created a little too much distance between us. So I've kind of used this time to recalibrate and reacquaint myself with some really important friendships and relationships. So with that, Brooke, how about you? And thank you, by the way, Brooke, for framing this with, I think, such an important topic.
Well, thanks for the opportunity. I think this platform was great. So I'm going to take this opportunity to work on my dreams, right? So we all have dreams. I have these big goals that we want to meet. And I've just been looking for time to do that. Have a lot of competing priorities right now. And I'm going to practice deliberate practice, right? I have time to practice deliberate practice and check some things off, all the while connecting more with my family. Sports are canceled, school is, out as far as going to the school. So the amount of time that we have together is just so much more than it was, a week and a half ago. So I'm going to cherish that, cook together, eat together, save money, travel online, build something, and drink wine.
Did you say drink wine?
I did.
I've already done that this week.
Teamwork.
Got my girlfriend's cup.
That's great. That's great. That's great.
So thank you, everyone, for participating in this fourth session. I'm going to try to find a common time to do these each night, but if any of you would like to co-host one of these or co-facilitate it with me, just give me a shout and a topic, and we'll go from there. But my plan initially was to have one every other day. We've ended up, so far, we're on a 4-weekday, at least 4-day streak. So I'm totally open and down for doing it every day. It's been something that's been therapeutic, I think, for me. So thanks again, everyone. And I hope you join us tomorrow. We'll post information about the sessions as I start kind of developing a calendar for this a little bit more in advance. But thanks for spending time with us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, thanks, Chris. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Good night.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys. Have a good one.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Baby, that was fun.
Thank you.
I know. I was like, hey, Chris, hello? Chris?
I'm still here.
Okay, my sister just FaceTiming, so I'm talking to her.
That's okay. I'm trying to figure out how to exit out of this thing now.
Are you on Zoom?
It's, I see it through a Facebook platform. So
Okay, that's why because you're on Zoom, you just leave the meet, you just.
Right.
So I was wondering, you said you couldn't see anything else. I'm like, I wonder why.
Yeah, it's weird. So I'm trying to bag my way out of it now.
Okay. You can call me later.
Okay.
Okay.